Blah, 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 blah. Certified Yapper. Welcome to the Certified Yapper podcast. I'm your Certified Yapper, Ellie K. Grant, and today we're talking about something that certainly everybody is yapping about, Wicked.
That's my line.
Not just the Wicked movie, but also the Wicked musical, the history, some of the themes, some of the symbolism that's in Wicked, and why it is so
popular.
What makes Wicked so culturally significant? Why is everybody talking about the movie, even though they haven't even seen the musical? The musical was already really big, but how is the movie even bigger? We're going to be answering all those questions today. I have certainly been a fan of Wicked for a very long time. I saw the Wicked musical for the first time when I was 7 years old, and from there I was a musical fan. If you know anything about me, before going to something like a concert or a musical, I have to know every single word to every single song, and I did that. For my first musical ever, Wicked, I was 7 years old, I knew every word, and yeah, I was popular. Not actually, I was not popular at all. But I did know every word to popular, and I did get a role in some like play once by singing it. So that's crazy. But I love Wicked. I've been waiting for the Wicked movie to come out for literally like 6 years. And I have certainly um, studied a lot of the stuff surrounding Wicked, like the symbolism and the themes. So we're going to break it all down for you today. First, one of the main reasons why Wicked is so incredibly popular is because it builds off of a familiar story. We all maybe haven't seen The Wizard of Oz, but we know the characters. We know Dorothy, her recognizable dress, her recognizable shoes. We know the Scarecrow and the Tin Man and the Wizard and the Lion and the Yellow Brick Road. And you know the Wicked Witch of the West. You know her green skin and her pointy black hat. And you know the Good Witch. So everyone knows these recognizable figures. So Wicked itself, the musical, was already recognizable when you walk in. When you walk in to go see the musical for the first time, you already know kind of what it's about. You know who the Wicked Witch of the West is. You have perceived, your conceived notions of her. You know who the Good Witch is. And now you're wondering, how does Dorothy tie into all of it? That's what made the musical so big in the first place. So first, let's start with some history, because I think it's really interesting. The Wizard of Oz book was released in May of 1900. Crazy. That's crazy. Then the movie, the Wizard of Oz movie, was released in 1939, the theaters. But not a lot of people saw it. It wasn't very big until it was broadcasted on CBS in 1956, and everybody saw it. That is when it became a recognizable name. Everyone knew who the Wizard of Oz was, or the movie, or Dorothy. Everybody knew Dorothy. Then, after the TV broadcast of the Wizard of Oz, the book Wicked was released in 1995, which kind of recent. The musical, based off of the book, roughly, had its Broadway debut in 2003. And then most recently, we had the Wicked movie, the first part, come out in 2024, with the second part coming out in 2025. So, long, complicated history. By building off of the big time TV broadcast of The Wizard of Oz, and then writing a book about something that everybody already knows about, and then creating a musical based off that book, it already brings people in. Also, in itself, The Wizard of Oz isn't very complicated. It has very, not trying to like go after the Wizard of Oz fans, but it has tropes and like, they're like trying to get courage and heart and brains, right? And right, it's like a scarecrow and he doesn't have brains and he's looking for brains. It's very much for kids. And so when you're basing something off of kind of simple but also like a big deal and revolutionary, it gives a good recipe for something good. Now we're going to talk about the Wicked musical. What made the Wicked musical so big? I consider the Wicked musical a mega musical just because of how big the fandom is surrounding it. Wicked was probably one of the last mega musicals, um, and probably the most recent mega musical. It had big numbers, big names, big production. Starring as Elphaba was Indina Menzel, who you probably know she voiced like Elsa in Frozen. She's a big name. Christian Chenoweth was uh, Galinda. And so many other recognizable names and figures have played characters in the show. I literally just watched a slime tutorial, if you know what I mean, of Wicked, and Ryan McCartan was Fiero. Like, so many big names have been in Wicked. So, the big names bring you in. Then they have big numbers. Defying Gravity, For Good, uh, No Good Deed, all of these, No One Mourns the Wicked, Opener, all of these big numbers that are so well written. And they have huge sets, and the whole world of Oz is magical. Uh, the all the way down to the costumes. The costuming in Wicked is really good, and so the songs are amazing. They're catchy and they're well written. They were up for best original score at the Tonys. The numbers are amazing. Little 7-year-old me was obsessed with some of the songs. I would belt in the back of the car. I could not sing, but that did not stop me from singing Defying Gravity. Uh, the production was also on another level. There is, in Defying Gravity, she literally has a lift that brings her up into the air. And the lights around her, and everyone is down on the ground screaming at the Wicked Witch of the West. And she's up in the sky on a contraption, holding her up in the air. And she is belting out one of the biggest numbers in any musical. And it's just so magical being there and sitting in that seat and watching that happen. That is why the musical itself is probably so recognizable. It also has very recognizable colors. And colors, if you know anything about media or production, are super important. If you have something that relates to one character or another and differentiates them from the ensemble, that's really important. Wicked had that. The Wicked Witch of the West was green. She wore all black, but that did not matter. Her skin stuck out. And then Glinda had these big, poofy dresses, but they were pink. She was pink. And then the rest of the characters were wearing mixes of browns and blues and sometimes green, but a lot of like blues. And that made our two main characters stand out the most. Something else that made Wicked stand out was it had two female protagonists. The main focus of Wicked is female friendship. And you don't see that a lot in media. There's a main female protagonist with her little sidekick, but then she's also trying to get the man. And while there is a romance aspect to Wicked, it's not the main relationship. There's a little tiny love triangle between Elphaba, Galinda, and Fiero, but Fiero is a side character. He's not a leading man. Who is the leading people are two women. And that was a big deal, especially for musicals, because a lot of musicals touch on romance. And something else is that the characters in Wicked are flawed. You don't have one perfect protagonist. Glinda, who in The Wizard of Oz was this beautiful, perfect person, and she's the good witch and she's beautiful, she is heavily flawed in the musical. They she was raised rich and she's this proper lady. But when you look down, all of the things that she does is performative. She doesn't actually care about the people of Oz, and she doesn't actually care about anybody but herself. And she might be the good witch, but at the end of the day, she doesn't really care about anyone but herself. And everything she does is to put herself on the pedestal. Elphaba, who we've been shown is this evil, evil person in The Wizard of Oz, is the main character of Wicked. She's the main lead. She has the biggest songs and she's the most recognizable figure from Wicked. I mean, it's all about her. And they paint her out to be a better person than how she is in The Wizard of Oz. She's misunderstood. But she still has her own flaws. She still steals her best friend's man at the end of the day. And she also maybe doesn't go about things in the right way, if you really want to get nitpicky. So, our two main characters, while there is like this, while they both were portrayed as good and evil in The Wizard of Oz, at the end of the day, they both are in this like little gray area, with Elphaba being a little bit better than, with Elphaba being a better person than Glinda, and I would consider Elphaba a hero, while I would consider Glinda a gray character. So, having relatable characters makes the musical more relatable. You can see yourself in a lot of the characters in Wicked. You can see yourself in Elphaba as this misunderstood heroine who's trying to do good, but based off how people perceive her, she can't, no matter how hard she tries. And she's manipulated by this, like, she doesn't like the color of her skin. And so then people like Madame Morrible manipulate her. But then you maybe see yourself in Glinda as this like performative activism, which I know when I was a kid and I didn't really understand the main themes of Wicked, I thought I was Glinda because she was happy and she was trying to help people in the best way that she could. But as you open up Wicked a little bit more and delve into it, you'll see that Glinda truly does not care about anybody but herself. And while she loves Elphaba and her and Elphaba are best friends, she still doesn't go with Elphaba to um on Elphaba's little like fight against the wizard. She still betrays her friend because she knows that if she goes with Elphaba, she will hurt herself and her position of power. You can also see yourself in Neza Rose, who is disabled representation. Now, something that frustrates a lot of people, me as well, is that the actor of Nessa Rose on Broadway was never a member of the disabled community. She was never actually disabled because in the second act she does walk, which I'm interested to see how they do that in the movie because the actor for Nessa Rose in the Wicked movie is actually disabled. So, while it is important to have disabled characters in media, I think it's important to do it the right way. And I think not opening the role up to disabled actors who could fill that role and who do actually use a wheelchair, but then not opening the role up to those people because she just happens to stand in the second act, I think diminishes the representation of that role a little bit. But there still is a disabled character, and she is also heavily flawed. So even if you're like, wait, I see myself in her. She is also flawed. She is not a perfect person. She does not stand up for her sister, and while she does like struggle with her own identity a little bit, she is not a great person, and she basically holds Bach hostage in the second act. So, and blames her sister for everything that happened. Um, so while you can see yourself in some characters, every character is flawed in their own right. Wicked also has this overarching theme of personal identity that makes it, again, incredibly relatable to people of color or people of the queer community. They see themselves in Elphaba because she has this trait that makes her stand out from everyone else and that people perceive as wicked. Um, Throughout history and even today, people perceive people of color as having this like wickedness about them, which is not true. And now, like, especially you see it all over the media, how people of the trans community or gay people are perceived as evil and have this evilness, sinfulness about them. Um, and Elphaba, she is relatable to marginalized groups because she is trying to show these people of Oz that she is not wicked. Just because she is green does not mean that she is evil. She is a good person with an amazing heart, and she really does try her best to be seen as a good person. And she tries to act like she does not care what people think about her. But deep down, she really does, and she's incredibly insecure. She works through the entire musical about embracing her identity and embracing her skin.
You're green. I am.
And who she is, no matter what other people think of her. People might think that she is wicked, but at the end of the day, she isn't, and she knows that. Um, Glinda, it's very interesting to me because she uses Elphaba, and Elphaba had to work hard to get where she was. She had to live this whole life with her father and her sister, who they both did not treat her very well. And she goes to Shiz, the school, and she again is just picked on for the color of her skin. And she is trying to work hard with her magic with Madame Morrible, which this is a big opportunity that she was shocked that she had. And she's finally going to meet the wizard. And by the time she goes to meet the wizard, or she's on this little journey, she has befriended Galinda. And it's ironic because Galinda, who has been perceived as this good person the whole movie, even though she hasn't even done anything, she is this woman who grew up very privileged, and she's using this privilege to have like all these friends and stuff. She literally rides off of Elphaba's coattails and gets to meet the wizard because Elphaba finally has a friend. And so she's like, wait, I finally have a friend. I'm bringing her along with me to go meet the wizard. I'm so excited to go meet the wizard. And this is her dream. And Galinda uses it, basically. Now, I'm not saying that Galinda did this on purpose, like befriended Elphaba on purpose to go and use her. But at the end of the day, she does use Elphaba for her own personal gain. She does go with Elphaba to go meet the wizard, and she also uses Elphaba. Elphaba is the only reason that Galinda gets magic lessons, and she does use Elphaba constantly throughout the musical to get where she wants to be. And so when they go meet the wizard, and then Elphaba realizes that the wizard is evil, by the end of the second act, Galinda doesn't even go with Elphaba on to go fight the wizard and go run away because Galinda knows that that will lose her position of power. And so then when Elphaba goes and runs away, by the second act of Wicked, Galinda is doing everything that the wizard tells her to do. And she would not have even had that position if not for Elphaba bringing her to go meet the wizard. So I think that uh, the theme of personal identity and how um, Elphaba learns to accept herself, and even Fiyero, she finds someone who also accepts her. Fiyero thinks that her trait of being green, like, and her accepting herself, Fiyero loves that about her because he loves that he has found someone who does not care what others think, and he has found someone who accepts themselves. And I think Fiyero also helps her come to terms with herself and her identity, but most of that is her. And so a lot of audiences find this really relatable, and I think that is a big reason why Wicked was so big. The last reason why Wicked was such a big cultural phenomenon was because it was the first time that a story about the villain was retold. Uh, you've seen that a lot in media recently, and maybe in the last like 20 years. It's become a lot more common to have a movie or a book or something written about the villain or the main person, but like flipped. But Wicked was probably the first one in the with the musical in 2003 and even the book in 95. It was um, the first time how the story was flipped on its head and how the villain was actually the protagonist. And I think it's a compelling idea to flip something like that just because um, just because it's so interesting, because I don't think any villain is truly 100% wicked. And a lot of times these villains, they're misunderstood people who have been treated horribly their entire lives, and or something happens to them, like they lose a, a sibling or a daughter or something, and then they turn evil. But really it's just because they don't know what to do, and they're just like trying to find some control, so then their evilness manifests and comes out. And I think it's interesting because Elphaba had everything going against her. She had every right to be wicked because of how she was treated by her father, by the people around her. People who didn't even know her would treat her like she was something um, evil and something gross. She um, she had every right to become evil, but then at the end of the day, all she wanted was to save the animals who were also being treated horribly. No one was fighting for them except for her, and she goes to the wizard and says like, "Hey, I want to save the animals," and then she finds out that the one person who she has looked up to this entire act is also going against her, is also trying to get rid of the animals. And so I just think it's incredibly interesting. She had every right to be evil, but she doesn't. She doesn't become evil. She continues to fight for the animals. Like, she goes back to the wizard later in the musical, and she's like, fine, like, I'll stop fighting you if you just free the animals. But then guess what? He doesn't. And the whole musical, she's fighting for these animals that have no voice. Like, quite literally, their voice is being taken away. No one else is fighting for them. I think that the musical just changes how we perceive wickedness, um, and how, like, it really just shows we all have the capabilities to become wicked. Uh, I think we have all had something happen in our lives where what we have said, or what we have done has been flipped to be taken the wrong way, or to make us seem bad. And I think that's what makes Elphaba so um, relatable, is because we have all been perceived the wrong way. We have all been taken, and the things we've said have been taken the wrong way and flipped. And I think that's what makes Elphaba so incredibly relatable, because she has everything that she's ever done was flipped. Like, her whole life was ruined. And I think sometimes it's easy for us to see something flipped like that, or something that we said taken the wrong way, and then be like, oh my God, her whole life is ruined. But her life is like, everyone knows that she is evil. And so at the end, when she like fakes her death, which is ironic because the way that she fakes her death is by using rumors that have been spread. So she like takes advantage of a rumor that's been made about her to literally get away from all of this. Rumors were going around that water could melt the Wicked Witch. So they got Dorothy to pour some water on her, and then she was like, oh my God, I'm dead. And I think that is so funny. Like, she used what essentially was going against her for her own gain. Like, she was, I think it's a full circle moment. Like, she used the rumors and the fake information being spread about her to then save herself. And so then she gets to ride off into the sunset with Fiero. Let's go. Right? Like, big moment. And I just think it is so interesting how she does that. And I think it is so easy to wallow in being told that you are wicked and you are evil, and everyone talking bad about you, and everyone saying fake things about you. And I think it's easy to wallow in that. But Elphaba shows us that there are ways to get out. Like, you can find a way out. There's always an end to it all, even if there doesn't seem to be an end. So I think that flipping the story on its head, making someone who we all know to be evil, like, she is a recognizable evil figure. Like, in The Wizard of Oz, she was called the Wicked Witch of the West, had no name. She was green, which is like a gross color, so she's evil. And she had this like, ha 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 ha. Lord, she had an evil, like, little snicker laugh. And so we all knew she was evil. So then to take like a recognizable figure and flip her is makes the story even more compelling and even more relatable, because we can all be wicked. Someone can always make us wicked. So I think that, along with having two female protagonists, making it about female friendship, making it about personal identity, and then basing it off of a familiar story, is what makes Wicked so good and such a big cultural phenomenon. It's why everybody is talking about Wicked. It's why everyone was talking about the musical in 2003. And it is why Wicked was such a big box office hit this past when it was released. And I cannot wait for the next movie. I'm so excited to see what they do with Elphaba and Galinda, and I'm really interested how they translate what they do in the musical to the big screen. I cannot wait a year. I don't think I can. I just need For Good. Can someone give me For Good? I am actually shocked that I didn't have more song puns in this. Like, did I make a popular joke? I don't think I did. I don't think I made a single popular joke. Well, if you're gonna be popular if you watch more of my videos, my little podcasts, okay? I have one about Abby Lee Miller. She is wicked. She's like actually wicked. You should check that out. And then come back next time when I talk about whatever I want to talk about, because it's my podcast, so I can talk about whatever I want. And I'll see you guys next time. And thank you for watching.